The Pacific Northwest may be home to an extraordinary beast.
All the hair on the nape of your neck stands up.
This terrifying legend has haunted residents for centuries.
There is this need to look at myth and legend for that kernel of truth.
And the creature may have found the perfect place to survive outside of man's reach.
I saw it distinctly. I saw its features distinctly.
Modern forensic science searches for evidence of an animal that is not supposed to exist.
This is strong physical evidence of something. There's something out there.
Now, Monster Quest seeks to uncover the truth about Ape Island.
And we heard something that sounded like some thuds.
Yeah, we do have a hot spot here.
Witnesses around the world report seeing monsters. Are they real or imaginary? Science searches for answers on Monster Quest. On the western fringe of the rugged Pacific Northwest sits Vancouver Island. 12,000 square miles of surging rivers, ancient rainforest, and storm-beaten beaches. It's located 50 miles to the southwest of the city of Vancouver, Canada, and 70 miles northwest of Seattle, Washington. This island wilderness attracts hikers, hunters, and something else. Native American legend says that a large ape is known to stalk the rivers and coastline of this rain-soaked island.
It was crouched down and it was hiding from the spotlight. And these big, long, elongated red eyes, you know.
That's when I could hear the footsteps of this creature stop as it knew I was there.
You're not too sure of what you're actually seeing until they stand up. And then when they start up, that's like, wow, that's not, you know, bears don't walk with a stride.
Eyewitnesses report seeing an ape-like creature that walks on 2 feet and is 6 to 9 feet tall with an estimated weight of 800 pounds. The hair-covered muscular beast is surprisingly agile, with a loping gait and a long stride. It is most often seen along the coastline and around the rivers of this water-rich island. Native legends tell vivid stories of these formidable monsters that stretch back centuries. It has many names: Bokus, Sunakwa, Mowglis, and Sasquatch, and it's a beast to be respected and feared.
Myth and legend is one of the ways that oral history has been passed on.
Dr. John Bindernagel, a wildlife biologist, has been on the trail of this creature for more than 30 years.
Much of the myth and legend is storytelling for a purpose. Like people say, oh yeah, Zunakwa, she was the bogeyman. Parents told their children, don't wander into the woods, you'll be stolen by a Zunakwa. Which may have been partly true. The fact that she was used that way does not invalidate her existence. I'm convinced that the Zunakwa, the wild woman of the woods, is in fact the female Sasquatch, and Bokus is the male.
I thought it was a myth, or I had no belief in any of that at all. That night made me a believer.
For outdoorsman Ted Story, myth became reality after a violent encounter one night while sleeping in his motor home in the middle of Vancouver Island.
All of a sudden, the motorhome shook violently. It listed 30 degrees or so. I would anticipate that the tires just about came off the ground.
Startled, Ted realized something very large was rocking the motorhome, and it was standing right outside the window.
I could see the spectrum of this creature, and it was standing on 2 legs for sure, and it had two upper limbs, and it was extremely hairy, matted hair.
Ted jumped to his feet and ran outside without thinking.
The smell in the air was a very stenchy, strong, almost dead fish, but musky. It was very, very prominent. I got to the tree line where the firelight had stopped. So basically it was where I was looking into blackness and I'm lit up. That's when I could hear the footsteps of this creature stop as it knew I was there. It was very still and very quiet and very eerie, knowing that something's right there or somewhere close by looking at me. Then I thought about how crazy I was after I'd gotten out. I was like, I have no way to defend myself.
Ted retreated inside the mobile home without seeing the creature again. The experience left him shaken.
I'll never camp there again unless I'm in a motorhome. I will never sleep in a tent in Strathcona Park as long as I live.
The Munster Quest expedition team has come to Vancouver Island to search for evidence of this elusive beast.
This is a good place to look, and this is a good place to try to find evidence for the creature's existence, of course.
Tom Steenberg and Rick Knoll, both experienced trackers, believe that the island is a perfect place to seek out a Sasquatch.
This is the type of terrain it lives in. High mountain, alpine country, the west coast rainforest. Much rainfall over the year compared to everywhere else in the continent, and there's water all over the place.
The Great Northwest has long been known for reports of Sasquatch sightings. The vast wilderness serves as an excellent hiding place. Vancouver Island has a human population of less than 800,000. While it's sparsely inhabited for its size, it has plentiful marine food sources that might lure such a creature across from the mainland.
They have been seen by people catching and eating fish. And of course there's a lot of salmon in the rivers here during the runs.
A lot of food sources along the coast with the saltwater. You have shellfish, then you have mammals that come down and feed on those shellfish.
Due to a recent cluster of sightings on the island's west coast near the town of Tofino, the area is chosen as the primary search location.
You've actually had reports in right around Tofino itself too, have you not?
Yes, in 2002, just on the edge of Tofino.
Knoll and Steenberg seek advice from a researcher, Adrian Dorst, who has collected details of local sightings.
Well, if you had a choice, where would you go for the best chance of seeing one of these creatures?
Mears Island has had more reports than any other place, so I think that might be...
We're definitely going to need a boat.
Bet. You're going to need a boat. Yeah.
But scientists say it would be highly unlikely that an ape-like creature has found its way to Vancouver Island.
We have no fossil record. We have no living specimen.
Dr. Derek Ellis, a professor of biology at the University of Victoria, has questions about the plausibility of such a creature.
If it is hairy, as a lot of the sightings suggest, it can't be human. If it's an ape, there is a problem. How could an ape get to North America without leaving a fossil trail?
But Dr. Ellis is intrigued by the possibility that a large primate has found its way to Vancouver Island. The only way to reach the island is via water. At their narrowest point, the saltwater channels separating the island from the Canadian mainland are more than half a mile wide. Dr. Ellis says other large animals have arrived by exactly the same method.
We have a video here of two bear cubs swimming across a river, and it's a good illustration of how mammals can cross fairly wide rivers, or possibly even lakes, or even to get to Vancouver Island from the mainland.
In 2008, confirmed sightings from local biologists proved that another large mammal made the same hazardous journey.
Grizzlies have been seen on the island. So, yeah, the mammals like this can move across fairly large bodies of water.
The weather is deteriorating as the expedition team prepares their gear. To facilitate the search, they will use thermal imaging cameras designed to cope with low visibility conditions. Audio equipment will be used to call blast sounds across the water. The team heads for the isolated inlets of the western coastline, a perfect spot to find a potentially dangerous creature.
We do have people who disappear in wilderness areas every year without a trace. And I think if you ran into a hostile one of these things, you would tend to disappear.
One likely food source for the beast is thought to be shellfish. It's found in abundance on the east shores of Meares Island. The team plans to lure the creature out onto the shores of Mosquito Bay. So they bait a trap with fresh clams.
That should be good.
They quickly find signs that they're sharing this beach with another large mammal.
Bear.
Yep, look at it.
Here's bear scat. Right. A whole bunch of it.
Briny bear scat all along here. Stuff. Of course, right beside an area where a bunch of clams was eaten.
If other large mammals are in the area and they're eating, just as good for a Sasquatch as it is for a bear. They're large mammals too.
The team sets up motion sensing cameras to watch over the bait, including one designed to blend in with the rocky shoreline.
And we keep the sensor, the lens, and the flash exposed.
A fluorescent dye, visible only in ultraviolet light, will indicate if there's been a disturbance around the cameras.
But I'm going to spray this reagent around here just in case something gets curious and wanders up to the camera.
If the creature picks up a clam, there's a chance the dye could capture another clue to its identity.
If it does handle it, we might get a fingerprint.
That'd be cool.
They set up a second bait station, 200 yards down the beach. In addition to the motion sensing cameras, the team has night vision and thermal imaging equipment on site, ready to capture any signs of activity.
You can see a long stretch shoreline or a long stretch of riverbank area. So if anything comes out to the water, you may catch a glimpse of it.
I see something. I don't... Did you see a flash?
Monster Quest has traveled to Canada's Vancouver Island to try to capture evidence of its legendary water ape. More than a century ago, as Westerners started to explore the wilderness of this remote island, they began to come face to face with its most feared inhabitant.
The earliest published reports of Sasquatches on Vancouver Island that I've come across are right around 1900.
Mike King, a timber trader known for his bravery, was exploring the area known as the Forbidden Plateau in the central part of the island. His two native guides suddenly refused to go any further, claiming this was the territory of the so-called Monkey Man. Undeterred, King continued alone. The following day, as he approached a water hole, he encountered the beast for himself. The hairy ape-like creature was washing food in the water. King moved closer, raising his rifle. But before he could pull the trigger, the massive creature stood. Vancouver Island has a large black bear population, numbering some 12,000. But wildlife biologist Dr. John Bindernagel is convinced that the sightings are not the result of misidentification.
The differences are considerable. You know, Sasquatches lack the prominent snout of the bear, and they don't have pointed ears on the top of the head. So really, any, especially Vancouver Island eyewitnesses, if they've seen bears, maybe they're commercial fishermen or hunters, they say, no, this was not a bear.
He believes the numerous eyewitness descriptions can mean only one thing.
I'm convinced it's a great ape. The handful of scientists who have studied it seriously are convinced it's a great ape. We have a problem making that case because prevailing knowledge says there are no apes in North America, and also because it walks upright like a human.
Dr. Bindernagel has gathered evidence to try and build a case for the existence of the beast. He will team up with a forensic podiatrist to analyze casts of alleged Sasquatch footprints. And his growing collection of more than 80 eyewitness reports will form the basis of the science team's cataloging of the evidence.
The first few reports I have are actually on the southern tip of Vancouver Island.
Dr. Bindernagel draws on the expertise of two local mapping experts from Vancouver Island University.
Yeah, that's right. There's Battleship Lake. There's Lake Helen Mackenzie. Okay. And let me think. Okay, north.
They begin to build a high-resolution digital map of the known sightings on the island.
Duke Hills. It's a pretty large area.
The map starts to take shape, and the areas in purple reveal a high density of sightings.
It's interesting, it appears that there may be more reports, well, there are more reports from the south end, but of course to have a Sasquatch report, you need a Sasquatch and a human to see it. And beyond that, you need a human to report it. So there's a number of things have to happen, and that happens more often in populated areas.
When the human population of the island is overlaid, the data reveals that the creature is most likely to be found in more isolated areas.
In fact, I think they are more abundant on the west coast, which is less populated, and at the north end, which also is less populated.
Otherwise, let's try out these night visions.
Right.
The Monster Quest expedition team returns to the boat, which gives them a panoramic view of the shores of Mosquito Bay.
We're just surrounded by shoreline. There must be a good 1.5 miles, 2 miles worth of shore that we can survey.
And there's absolutely not a single light. There is nobody around.
With a fine mist descending on the bay, they increase the range of the night vision equipment with a powerful infrared spotlight.
How far away is that, do you think?
Probably a football field.
Yeah, at least.
They tried drawing out the creature using a technique known as call blasting. It uses recordings of various animal sounds that match eyewitness descriptions of the creature's cries.
Well, this is a 200-watt stereo system that we've got some purported Sasquatch calls that we're going to blast out from the boat here. See if we can't bring something down from the woods to investigate closer to the shoreline. This is a accepted practice in the scientific community. The purpose of it is to elicit a response so that the animals come closer, that they can be studied.
And it's a technique that's worked on previous expeditions.
As far as responses, I've gotten a few responses. The animal, whatever was making the response, seemed to be following it closer and closer to our camp. So I think it works.
The weather conditions have deteriorated further, and night vision surveillance is increasingly difficult.
It's the mist.
It's the mist.
Can't see through the mist. Little particles are just blocking it.
It's like snow. It's like looking through snow.
But the first sign of life is heard. not seen.
Oh no, I heard what sounded like a thump on the shoreline over there.
Steenberg and Knoll head back to base camp on the beach. Steenberg goes to check the condition of the clam bait and camera traps.
Okay, here we go. That's our camera trap location.
So far, the bait is untouched. But the surveillance will continue through the night.
I say every half hour we just scan the horizon here and see if we can see any type of heat source moving around.
The thermal imaging camera pierces through the mist and the rain. Warm bodies will show up in red and yellow. The Munster Science team begins to examine some intriguing physical evidence.
They do resemble human toes in many respects. That stretches the imagination that these would be a hoax.
MonsterQuest is searching the waterways and coastline of Vancouver Island for evidence of the Northwest's legendary water ape. The beast has been terrorizing locals on this wild and rain-swept island, sometimes leaving a physical trace, evidence that Dr. John Bindernagel finds extremely persuasive.
As a wildlife biologist, I find tracks to be the best evidence for its existence, the best evidence for its presence in certain areas.
The science team will examine the casts of these tracks using expert forensic analysis.
Forensic podiatry involves analyzing footprints in connection with crimes that have been committed. Footprints reveal more than fingerprints.
For the years, I'll be happy for you to have a look at them and make some.
Dr. Michael Nierenberg, a forensic podiatrist, will determine whether the impressions were made by a human, a known animal, or a creature unknown to science.
88, right here on Vancouver.
The first thing that strikes Nierenberg is their monstrous size.
You know, this one measures nearly 15 inches. When you look at a human footprint versus this creature, you do see some similarities, but you also see such a size difference.
These giant prints seem to be human-like, but they are likely not human.
As you look at it, you see things like the broadness, which is very unusual for a person to have this. Now, could there be a person out there with a foot just like this one cast that I'm looking at here? It's possible, but it would be very unlikely.
Nierenberg quickly concludes the prints could not have been made by another known mammal.
You see the toes and the toe pads. You don't see a claw like you would see in a bear print typically, or other animals.
The shape of the toe also distinguishes the creature from other known primates, such as chimps or gorillas.
The tracks have the great toe is lined up or aligned with the other toes as it is in humans, rather than being divergent as in the gorilla. So we have these apparent contradictions. The animal itself superficially resembles an upright gorilla. It's rather disconcerting to a lot of people. They say, well, so is it human or ape?
The most detailed cast in Dr. Bindernagel's collection is a 15-inch print found on the muddy shores of a river.
It's an amazing cast. Because it was cast in fairly soft mud, we have not only the impression of the larger part of the foot, the sole and the heel, and the toe tips, but it shows that the toes were held in this curled position.
They do resemble human toes in many respects. Yeah, and you can see how deep the toes are, how contracted and curved they are. That makes sense to me from a podiatry point of view, because there are people who will walk on the pads of their toes, and that's something that may translate to some other unknown species.
Yeah.
Okay. So then here you have some muddy areas that might pick up
Despite
a footprint.
Dr. Bindernagel's efforts, there are few footprints recorded.
There are more surfaces that will not retain or show a footprint than will. To leave a footprint, you have to have the right surface with some mud. You have to have the animal come through that area, and then you have to be lucky enough to actually find that footprint.
It's just a massive thing. As big as a bear, easily. But it wasn't a bear, it had human features.
Rob Wilson Story was driving west on the highway that crosses the island.
I had a place called Maureen Creek, and I'd just gone over the bridge when I saw through the trees what I thought was a bear. But when I rounded the corner in my car, I slowed down and saw what I can only describe as a large, hairy man who looked sort of caveman-like, if you wish, or sort of a Neanderthal features.
The river, thick with salmon, was a perfect feeding spot for this enormous creature.
He was crouched down on the tree with his hand in the river, and as if he was going to catch a fish. It was so surreal that I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, but I could see very, very clearly.
Steenberg and Knoll have traveled west to meet Rob Wilson Story.
And it was just crouching on a log?
Yeah, that's why I know it couldn't possibly have been a bear.
They've come to explore the river, where he caught his glimpse of the creature.
Can you see the exact spot from here right now?
Yes. The tree across there.
The one going lengthways along the bank.
The site is on the banks of the raging Kennedy River. The remote location would be the ideal place for a creature trying to hide itself from detection.
It's rather a bit of a task to get to the spot on the river where this thing was seen.
With nightfall approaching quickly, an old logging road allows the team to drive around to the north shore of the river where the sighting occurred. To reach the site, the last few miles must be hiked. Steenberg attempts to find a way through a steep and log-strewn gully.
It's thick crap down here. Actually, it'd be a tangled mess.
Going through this terrain here is almost impossible, so there's got to be a trail down to that area.
The team is hopeful this location will provide solid evidence.
Well, it sounds like a credible story from a witness. I do believe he saw something, and that he thinks and he really believes it was a Sasquatch. Maybe he's right.
With the knowledge that the creature may be active in the area, they scan the surrounding forest with the thermal imager.
I'm not seeing any hot spots. I'm seeing a lot of cool areas. The trees, brush. I'm waiting for something to pop its head up.
Suddenly, the imager shows a warm presence lurking in the distance.
Yeah. Oh, there's probably a bird or something in one of these trees.
I don't know what that is.
You see? Yeah, we do have a hot spot here. You're aiming up. There's something in that tree up here.
Move to your right a little bit so I can see you. Okay. It's above your head. Move to your right a little bit so I can see you. Okay. It's above your head. Now it's way above your head.
Something has left a heat signature on the trunk of this tree, and whatever made it must still be close.
Oh, it's right here. What the heck?
Monster Quest is searching the forests and beaches of Vancouver Island for evidence of the mysterious water ape.
I've hunted for years, and I knew that it was nothing I've ever seen before.
The crew of this fishing boat was traveling along the isolated eastern coast of the island.
A few of us decided to go to Village Island and, fish for crab and prawns and that. I was cooking crab out on the back deck, chowing on it and, just having fun.
Then they noticed something very unusual.
That particular day, there was no wildlife, no nothing. And previous days before that, there was bears, there was birds, there was all kinds of wildlife there. We thought it was a bit strange, but never really thought too much about it.
And the one thing that, just as soon as he got into that bay, the wind was blowing, and the smell that came out was phenomenal. I've never smelt anything like it in my life.
When darkness fell, the source of the smell suddenly appeared on the shoreline.
Me and Tom went up on top of the bridge of the seine boat. We flicked on the spotlight, and we caught it as it came out of the bush, right on the point. It was crouched down, and it was hiding from the spotlight. And these big, long, elongated red eyes, The body was human-like. There's no denying that. It was probably 9 or 10 feet tall. And weight, I don't know, probably 400 pounds.
They watched the massive creature for almost an hour from the safety of their boat.
It was kind of an eerie feeling. I'm an avid hunter. I've seen bear, I've seen cougar. I know for sure it was not a bear.
One of the fishermen had his gun nearby, but he was not tempted to take a shot.
The native legends say that if you ever did harm one of them or shot one of them or whatever, that within 7 years you would die. But it never even crossed my mind. There's no way. Once I realized what it was, I would never even consider that.
It was getting darker and the moon came up, and then as he walked around into the bay, and it took his time, and then he crouched down and grabbed some cockles, and you could hear him break them open and then start eating away at these cockles.
Suddenly, the creature disappeared from view.
It took him 3 strides to do like 30 yards. It's just bam, bam, gone into the bush. Like, wow, I can't even walk that fast.
North America has many stories of this formidable creature appearing near coastlines, rivers, and other water-rich environments. Dr. John Bindernagel finds a marked increase in areas with high rainfall.
It seems well adapted, strong, able to withstand cold, wet, damp conditions.
Vancouver Island averages over 40 inches of rain each year.
It's not so far north as to have a lot of that precipitation in the form of snow and ice, nor is it so far south that the rainfall trickles out and becomes quite dry. I think it's very well located. I think it could be very close to ideal.
The Monster Quest science team is looking for a connection between the sightings and the island's waterways.
Is it possible to see the rivers, creeks, lakes, ponds on Vancouver Island? There we go.
By adding the waterways to the overlay map, the favored habitat of the creature is revealed.
There appears to be this strong association between Sasquatches and water, either the shore or lakes or rivers. Yeah.
The creature seems drawn to rivers and beaches, but there is a problem with the water ape theory.
The conventional wisdom, based on a 1929 article by 2 very well-respected scientists, said that apes and monkeys can't swim.
Dr. Derek Ellis has collected evidence that proves the conventional wisdom is wrong.
Here's a nice one. This orang has gone in to retrieve a coconut that's fallen in the water. Here's one swimming, an orang. And there's no question that primates are able to learn to use the water if they want to. Here you see the macaque jumping into the water, and he's not falling in, he's jumping in. And you can see what the monkey's doing. It's gathering food from underneath the water. So it's a good illustration. There is no problem for a primate to live in or on or close by the water.
And just as orangutans have been seen swimming, so the Vancouver Island creature has also been sighted in water.
If Sasquatches exist, it doesn't bother me at all that there are reports of Sasquatches on shoreline and using the water, swimming in the water, gathering food from the water.
Well, this is Highway 4, and this is the river that it was on. And the GPS says that...
Tom Steenberg and Rick Knoll continue to investigate the site of Rob Wilson Story's sighting.
I think the location of Rob's sighting is still prime habitat.
It's an excellent place to look for footprints and stuff like that, because there's a lot of muddy patches around here, and there's a lot of soft ground along here. So it's quite possible that if we look around today, we might find something.
Within minutes, they find an indication that the creature may indeed be active in the area.
I'm going to mark this site.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
See some
Here.
They find a shallow impression that shows the outline of 5 toes in the gravel.
Get something in there for scale. Get a picture. I don't think it's castable.
No, it's too shallow for that. Not distinctive enough. And I don't see...
Even though the print is faint, it's a clue that they may be getting closer to their target.
No, it must have come out...
I don't get too excited about anything except for a track. If I see a track, then I know something made it. And the tracks that I've seen are pretty convincing to me.
So if we follow this, it'll take us to the riverbank.
Their route to the river takes them through hazardous terrain.
Watch it. It's a lot of low-lying stuff here, and there's a hole right here, and holes there.
They may be closing in on a creature hiding in the area.
Yeah, it's right up here. There's a small possibility that there's something in the area that comes back, we could find something. i.e. footprint, parts of footprint or hair. Okay, hold it a sec. This is a nice sandy spot here. Let's see if there's anything on it.
Monster Quest is investigating reports of a legendary beast, the water ape of Vancouver Island. This man saw a huge hairy creature crouched on a log, reaching into a salmon-rich river. This boat crew watched as a massive upright primate strolled across a beach before feasting on clams. While camping by a river, this man's motorhome was violently attacked. And this expert believes the answer to the mystery may lie in the footprints of the beast.
Having looked at these casts of these feet, the size and the width of them, I just found incredible to see something like this with all the detail, the roundedness of the toe pads, the toe stems were even visible. I think it would be very unlikely with what I've seen that any of these footprints are faked or hoaxed.
Nirenberg places the casts in the category of unknown origin.
I don't think it's a bear footprint. I don't think it's a human footprint. It's something else. This is strong physical evidence of something. What, I don't know. But there's something out there.
The Monster Quest expedition team is taking a final look at the site of Rob Wilson Story's river sighting.
See, here's a perfect area for tracks if anything's been here. Right, and of course we're right by the log where the Sasquatch was swinging. We're now examining and looking for any evidence, physical evidence, that such an animal was here, i.e. tufts of hair, footprints in the sand, and anything else for that matter. And he saw this thing on the log there, apparently with its hand in the water, looking for, well, he assumed fish. How far out did he say it was? And don't say the end.
Where the bark was.
Huh?
Where the bark's gone.
The team cannot find any physical evidence in this location. Next, the camera traps are retrieved from Mosquito Bay.
What is that? See that? It looks like there's something dark right there.
They cannot make out shapes without more analysis back at the lab.
Yeah, I can't tell what it is.
No, just a shadow.
Dr. John Bindernagel has mapped 80 locations and continues to look for patterns in the data he gathers.
Yes. South of Camel River, for example, where there are lots of Sasquatches but relatively few people.
Yeah. There's definite areas on the island where a person is more likely to see a Sasquatch than others, and this provides us kind of a tool for that sort of direction.
Dr. Bindernagel feels that this creature is worthy of further research.
I'm trying to attract the attention of my scientific colleagues to the evidence. It's still a scientifically taboo subject. I think part of my scientific responsibility is to help change that.
Scientists, I believe, will react with skepticism, and I believe they should. You know, I mean, that we have found out a lot about our world, but if one realizes we haven't found out everything, then I think the idea needs to be open to some kind of scientific scrutiny and some kind of investigation.
Dr. Derek Ellis is still skeptical of the creature's existence, but he now accepts that it is a practical possibility that apes could be living on Vancouver Island.
Well, I would expect a coastal living Sasquatch to forage on the beaches, particularly low tide, to be seen swimming.
He maintains that he would only be 100% convinced by irrefutable physical evidence.
So what is needed is some sort of specimen, like finding a corpse or a skeleton or bones. That would be convincing to me. I hope someone finds them. Yeah.
The Monster Quest team has unearthed some intriguing new evidence. They've proven that the footprints of the creature are real and that they do not belong to any known species. They have established that the water-rich environment of Vancouver Island is a perfect habitat for the creature.
Dead, of course.
They have identified areas of low human population that are promising targets for future investigations. And they've gathered valuable eyewitness testimony from locals who have seen the beast.
I would swear on the Bible, and I am a religious man, and I would swear on the Bible what I saw. They do exist, so there is nobody will ever convince me otherwise.
Lots of people say, yes, sure, it's probably a bear, you know, like, and many excuses like, well, that's your opinion, that's fine, but this is what I saw, and that's all there is to it, like, this is what I saw.
Well, one day I think it'll, somebody will get some evidence somewhere along the way, and it'll be proven. I know they exist.